I guess we'll share the mic, but Angela actually wants to start this piece off, so I'm going to let her start it. I promise she asked, okay? I did not. I think you'd be best at this, hon. She was the one that asked, so I'll let her kick it off.
I was just going to share, for me, some from my childhood on up to pretty much when I met Wesley. So that will kind of give you an idea of my background and where I come from. So I was born May 30th, 1974. So Friday was my birthday. I am 51. Thank you. So I grew up in a small town in central Illinois. My first experience, the church, is this, wait, hold on a second. I think this is where it was, yeah. My first experience with a church was United Pentecostal Church. My grandfather was an associate pastor for the UPC church. So my mother grew up, her entire life in the UPC church. I have one older brother, I have a younger sister, and I also have an adopted sister. My upbringing, even given that I was raised part of my life in the UPC, it wasn't great. My parents divorced when I was 6 years old. Just one day, my brother and I were told, sorry guys, you're probably going to get a lot of tears from me. It's just who I am. It's very dear to my heart, my testimony is. They divorced when I was 6 years old. My brother would have been 8. We were just told one day to ride the bus home to my grandparents, and we did not go back home that very day. We never saw that home again. I never saw my dad, either for about a year after that. Very shortly after, in church, my mom met who would end up becoming my stepdad for almost the next 11 years. Our family life was very dysfunctional. My stepdad was a violent person at times, abusive mentally, sometimes physically, especially towards my older brother. During those 11 years, we were a lot of times in and out of church. My mom eventually left the UPC church. She was caught wearing pants working in the local IGA meat department. And they actually asked her to leave because she just, told them, it's cold in here, it's why I'm dressed like this. But they actually asked her to leave, and she did. We ended up, after that, on and off in the Assemblies of God Church. And I have a lot of great memories there as, a child. And, but things at home were different. At the age of 16, my mom divorced him. And again, not long after, met someone else and married again. At this time, my siblings and I all rebelled against my mother. We ran from the Lord. We started to get involved in pretty heavy partying and really hanging around some pretty shady people. Just not living for the Lord at that time. We all three ended up dropping out of school. Eventually later, my brother and I did go back and, finished and got our GED diploma. My sister never did. As I grew older, and of course I rebelled for quite a few years, I ended up with 2 failed marriages, but 4 amazing children. After my failed second marriage, I knew something had to change. All I was doing was repeating what I'd grown up in. I had grown up hearing about God, but was not really taught it at my home life. It wasn't reinforced or anything. So what I knew of the Lord, I knew from either being with my grandparents or in church. There was no kind of, stability in our family life at home. We didn't have like the reading of the word, or even with our school studies and such, we didn't have that reinforced or anything. It was just, a lot of times, just chaos. So I grew up hearing about God, been to church, but I didn't trust it either at times. It took me hitting bottom. I would occasionally started to go to, because now at this point, I'm a single parent of 4 children. I occasionally would go get help through a crisis pregnancy center that was close to me. Through that, I met a woman named Kay. And she invited me to her church. I took her up on it. And it took a lot to get me there. I did not want to go. Because I felt through a lot of my life, I've heard enough about the God thing. I've, been through that, and it didn't work for me, I thought. So there I was, a single mom of 4, feeling very vulnerable and out of place. But Kay, the woman who had asked me to come, took me under her wing and began to mentor me and pour into me. She looked beyond all of my mess. She saw my need. So one day at a Sunday morning service, I really felt heavy and burdened, because even though I was being mentored by Kay and all these other things, I still hadn't, I was still carrying a heavy load. So one day, Sunday morning, with Pastor Van Fraunfelter, I still remember the pastor. He was preaching, and the Holy Spirit was moving, and you could just feel it in the atmosphere. It was so thick. He gave an altar call that day, and it's the first time that I understood, and that he explained in a way I really hadn't heard before, that I needed a relationship with Jesus Christ. So, yes, I'd heard of God. I grew up going to church off and on through some of my, family life, but I didn't know what that meant, that having a relationship with Jesus Christ. I threw my hands up that Sunday morning. I accepted him. I didn't care who saw. I was no longer uncomfortable. I accepted him as Lord and Savior. I asked him to forgive me, and instantly I felt chains drop off of me. I was lightweight. He embraced me that day and carried away that heavy weight. He took it upon himself that I had been carrying for years. I instantly started to make some changes. I started to attend a single mother's group. I started to thrive in there. Old Angela was gone. I was a completely different person. Still to this day, I can look back and I don't recognize her. I don't know who that was. It was not me. I still had struggles, and I still messed up some. But I still was not the same, and I was growing in my faith. I ended up at one point knowing I didn't want to stay in Illinois anymore. I think that too many things had happened there, and I still had an ex who was still causing problems for me. So I packed up the kids and we moved to Tennessee, where my brother and sister were. I started to attend their church. I got a job working where my sister worked. And this is where I ended up meeting Wesley.
Okay, so her notes are a lot better than mine. Mine are like bullet point. But so I was born and raised in Laramie, Wyoming. I was the oldest of 4 children. I grew up in a pretty strong Christian home. Homeschooled. We did the Awana, the church, Sunday school. I mean, it was church all the time. I had a pretty good childhood. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Funds weren't always there, but she did her best, and my dad was a very hard-working guy, so good guy. I love my childhood in Wyoming. Wyoming was my place. Dad kind of got a wild hair, I guess, and says we're moving to Tennessee. And so we had that early teenage years, 14 or so, we moved to Tennessee, and I wasn't too happy about it. I had a lot of friends in Wyoming. I had a lot of different sports and activities and different things that I was pretty involved in and I liked. But we might wound up moving, and different church, different friends. Wasn't necessarily accepted, right? So I'm the Wyoming kid in a small town in Tennessee, right? And I was kind of the outcast, but fairly charismatic, so I was able to make what I thought were friends. So as I started growing as a young man, I started getting a little more restless, a little more frustrated, and eventually I graduate high school and I leave home. That early time, kind of in high school, and then before I left home, I was sneaking around, dabbling and partying and just hanging out with the wrong crowd. And so whenever I left, I kind of ramped that whole lifestyle up a little bit, started partying more, running around with a lot of the wrong crowd, and I started to get pretty out of control. And I was at a party one night, and argument with current girlfriend, whatever, and I go to leave the party after this argument, and I take my frustration out on my car. I'd I had a Trans Am that I had for a couple years, so went super fast, but it was respectable. And it was up until this night. And so I'm beating on my car, taking my frustrations out, going down the road, and I wind up losing control of the vehicle, and how fast I don't know, but slides sideways into a telephone pole, and I remember sliding and going, "That's it." He spared me, obviously. Um, Took him about 3 hours to cut me out of the car, busted my legs up. Life flight to Vanderbilt, cast, traction, all that fun stuff. And this slowed me down, right? So like, I'm pumping the brakes when I should have been doing that before the pole. And I kind of started getting back on track. I wasn't able to work for almost 5 months. My legs were all busted up, so I couldn't. My funds run out, and I had to move back home for a time. And I'd kind of started getting a little bit better, but this whole time I'm staying pretty well medicated because of my injuries. Well, that's what the doctors told me, and that's what I told myself. But as time goes on, I heal pretty slowly. But then I go to work, and I start working at a wood molding plant, and I'm in the grinding room. I was a setup guy, so I'd set up all the wood molding profiles and all that, and set the machines, and they're grinding, and I see Angela step out, and I'm like, wow. Poor gal didn't stand a chance. And Angela and I start seeing each other. It took some persistence. It really did. I was not someone that was willing to just give up, right? So she starts. We kind of started dating and talking to each other, and this whole time, I wasn't aware of the. I was, but I wasn't. I pushed it back. The demon that was sneaking in on me through the addiction to narcotics. But we'll get to that piece. So, we start dating. Everything's going good. I was actually set to go see Angela, and it was pretty close to the oldest boy's birthday, Nico. So I had a guy I'd been roommates with for like before the accident. We were friends. Well before we were roommates, we kind of, best friends, whatever you want to say. And I was going to see Angela that night, and Scott, his girlfriend, was a couple miles away. Transmission had messed up in Scott's truck, and I'm a Trans Am guy, right? So I wreck one Trans Am. What do? You buy and build another one. So I'm going to see Angela, and Scott's transmission's out, so I throw Scott my keys, and I'm like, be careful. I'll see you whenever I get home. And he wrecks the car that night. Um, difference is he didn't walk away. He died that night. And pretty tough time. Yeah, it was a tough time. So, constantly dealing with that. There's blame, um, regret, all those different pieces. And I didn't mean to kick you. So, kind of mask all that, right? So, I pour myself into Angela and the kids, and we start getting more serious while we're dating. But the whole time that I'm doing this, I'm utilizing my newfound crutch through my car accident, and I'm medicating, right? So I continue to do this all while hiding it from my wife, my children. And that was probably one of the worst things, is I was pretty good at it. I held a job. I excelled at jobs. I hid the things from my wife. I would attend church. And once the devil's got a foothold, he came to kill, steal, and destroy. So that's what we started to do. And Angela and I eventually got married, right? So we're married, everything's going well, and then it takes over and stuff kind of falls apart. I go off the deep end. What the doctors couldn't keep me where I needed to be in my mind, and I wound up hitting rock bottom. I mean, it was bad. I'm not going to get too explicit, but I'll let your imagination go, and you can pretty much guess that's about where it went. Angela and I had split up, and that just caused everything to just spiral out of control for me. I spent a little time, about a week, at a pleasant little correctional facility that kind of woke me up, and I thought, I got to change something. Something's got to give. I lost everything, so I reach out to a guy that had actually, my brother had heard him come to a church, and he tells me about him. And of course, my mom. Y'all got to meet my mom. The woman's a saint. Like, yeah, she's awesome. So she pushes harder now. All this time, Angela and I are separated, and before I can actually go to this program, you guys saw the gentleman that came did a little piece on stage. Pretty similar program, Christian program, really awesome thing. But before I could do my time there, before I could enroll, I had to do like blood tests and all this other stuff, make sure I wasn't carrying some rare zombie disease or something, And I go to Cleveland, Tennessee, and I meet with a guy named Russell Coffey, and he is a old Pentecostal preacher, and he saw that the harvest was ready, and I got the old Pentecostal fire and brimstone, but love and grace, and I got saved. And I always kind of joked that, growing up in a Christian home, that I was kind of a long-time listener, first-time caller, like I've heard it all, but this was a big moment, and so I load up and I go to Texas, and I'm in Texas for 11 months, and I go through this program, and the whole time there was kind of minimal contact with my family originally, and then Angela and I kind of started talking, and as I'm going through it, but we were both struggling. I'd caused a lot of pain, right? And let's see. We really been. I know that was a tough time for her. I don't know if you want to speak to it or not. We're both still separated by the time I graduate the program, and we're talking, we're praying, and it was like God just told both of us that what I put together, let no man put asunder. And He brought us back together. Things work out. I had
packed the kids up in a huge moving truck and drove that thing to Texas by myself, hauling a little tiny car.
She pulls into the Lowe's parking lot in the biggest Penske truck you can rent.
Didn't know instantly what I was doing.
She has three kids and a little dog in the front seat. And you could see, it was so great when I opened up the back of the truck, because you could see when she started, it was just so put together. And then it was just this slide of things as they were just thrown in the back, and she headed for Texas.
I wasn't quite sure that he had quite learned his lesson yet, though, because he did show up in a blue Camaro. I'm like, oh.
I still like cars and motorcycles. I can't help it.
He still has a nice bike.
Yeah. And what's great about the Texas piece is
God moved us to the desert to start making us a family. Go ahead.
And she's exactly right. We get to Texas, and we finally got to experience what God had intended in the first place. We grew as a family unit. San Angelo is a hot Texas desert town, right? But there's a lot of fond memories there.
Abilene first.
Yeah, Abilene first.
And that was another good thing about the program that he'd gone through is it was supported by a really good church.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of people pouring into him, too, at that time. Great people.
Yeah. Y'all have to get more stories sometime. There's some good stories there, but I think you want to talk a little bit, or no? Okay.
I can talk fine without the mic. I think you guys can hear me, right? When I speak, can you hear me?
He really just continued to bless us after that.
It got to where we just would not do anything without going to prayer. You know, it got to where we wouldn't even, we started out grow a house we were in, or his job would promote him because he started off I think you should really talk about your job and thanking Peter.
Okay, so I had to give my testimony at graduation. So I've been in the program for 11 months. And I'm standing up there and I go to kind of give my testimony. And then I want to thank everybody that played a part in that church, because there were some pretty big people as far as impacting the guys' lives there. And there was a guy that I'd talked to that was in Sunday school. He didn't really play a part in the program. But his name was Peter. And I'm looking out over the crowd as I'm getting ready to kind of wrap up my piece there at the end. And I just blurt out, and I'd like to thank Peter. And I get back to the home, and all the guys in the program are like, Peter? You wanted to thank Peter? Really? I'm like, well, I don't know. I just saw him out there. I thanked Peter.
Nervousness.
Mm-hmm.
Giving his testimony.
Well, I think it was. So that day, Peter, now that he's a huge mentor of mine, I love Peter. He comes up to me, and he's, now keep in mind I'm graduating and I'm getting ready to go into a transition home is what they called it. And what it was a empty radio station where I got a room with a key, my own bed, a plastic set of drawers, and kind of a good luck, but I had a roof, right? So Peter comes up to me and he's like, well, I'm sure you're looking for a job. My brother-in-law works at this place called Avis Lube. They're always hiring. It should be pretty close to where you'll be staying. So I said, awesome. Well, I'll go check it out. Well, I go put in my application. I get hired, and there's been this whole transition from me hiring. So I start out at the bottom. My job's literally washing windows, vacuuming floorboards, and checking tires on vehicles when they get a quick lube. And then I move assistant manager. They move Angela and I to San Angelo. And then I move from running that location they move us to Midland, Texas. And they have me run their biggest location. And I run that store.
Hard about that one.
Yeah, Midland was a tough
We
choice.
did not like Midland. We were like, we will never go there.
Yeah. Until God tells you to go.
Until God puts you there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what happened. So.
And so I work as manager at that location, and then they promote me to an area manager. And all this time I say that they moved me here and they promoted me here. God just continued to bless us. Yeah. He really did. There was a lot of hard times, but it was faithfulness to Him, to each other, to our children, and ensuring that He was in the forefront of all of that. And so all this kind of continues. Avis Lube actually winds up getting sold, so I get sold to, I get sold. Well, sold. I didn't have to go, but I got sold to Valvoline Instant Oil Change. I worked for Valvoline Instant Oil Change for 6 months, and I was promised a lot of things, but I could not get behind what the company stood for, what they were supporting, what they were trying to promote. they wanted me to wear my pronouns on my name tag, so I put in my resignation. It's not something I'll support, and it's not something I'll back. And I go back to the Kent companies that had Avis Lube. They have a bunch of convenience stores, so they wind up putting me into the convenience store world. And Angela's wanted to move back to Tennessee for years now, and they purchased 5 stores in Fayetteville, and I wound up being able to come down and run those. And then my area has continued to grow since then, and God's blessed that. But I was pulling in my driveway, I don't know, a year ago, 6 months ago, whatever the case, and I'm kind of coming up to the side of the house, and I just think, Lord, I'd like to thank Peter. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of our story in a nutshell. Do you want to add anything? No. I think that's about all we've got, guys. How did we find Freedom Fellowship? So we are going to a church in Murfreesboro, and it was a good church. The distance kind of restricted us being able to be active inside the church, right? Because it's such a jump to and from Murfreesboro. We went one Sunday, and we actually just got locked down in traffic on 24. Didn't even make it to church, and we had the conversation that we needed to find something local. And so I get on the Google machine, and I'm looking stuff up. I don't even know what I searched to cause the engine to pull that. But I wound up clicking on Freedom Fellowship's website, and I remember Grace was like, well, why do you think we should go there? And I was like, I don't know.
Grace
But we
was
should try
actually
it.
like that. She was like fearful at first. She's like, I think we need to pray about this.
Yep. And sure enough, she loves everybody here, and it's turned out to be a great thing. But yeah, I don't know what led me to click on that, but other than God.
You may have mentioned it, I missed it. How many years now have you been back in Tennessee?
So we've been back in Tennessee for 4 years. Well, I graduated the program in 2011. So it's been a tough thing too. I graduated with I say 8, really 7 guys. 3 of us are alive. And one of them's fallen off the wagon again. But yeah. Any other questions?
I was going to say something, you know what? It just slipped my mind.
It's a lot easier giving my testimony now than when I was younger. I kind of got this little prop right here. I'm digging this. So that's a great question. I actually had one of the guys ask me that. With sin, with temptation, it's almost a romance, right? There's certain things that will spark that, but I don't just have this, I need to go get high or something like that. I know what I was. I know what I came from. I know who saved me. I know what the price was to save me. And I, yeah, no turning back, right? So I think that with time things get easier, yeah. But I don't have those little pieces. But yeah, sure, there'll be little things. One of the pieces in the program is you weren't allowed to whistle or sing any secular music because secular music could spark a memory or a thought, right? Um, I actually I got disciplined in the program one time because I was whistling "God Bless Texas." I was in Texas and I was excited to be there. So, but no, I really. But the reason that I don't is because of my walk. It's because of my faith. It's because of Him and what He took from me. Yeah. We can all slip, but when we keep Him in the front, seek ye first, you know. Mm. Yeah. 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 I understand that. Yeah. It's the
Pulled into Starbucks this morning here, and she opened the door. Oh, look, a cigarette butts. Don't you touch
no.
Nobody's got a cigarette. Don't touch it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that you've been quit for that long. That's excellent. Yeah. Well, praise God. That's awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. Amen. All right. Any more questions? Meet my mom.
Maybe. They keep saying they're gonna come, and
Yeah.
that they keep changing it, but, his sister's, had a baby, new baby and everything, so that's taking up some of their time, but.
Yeah, I've got a sister in just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the other one is in Bismarck, North Dakota. My brother's in Kansas City, so my parents kind of stay between the girls, you know. My brother and I get a courtesy visit every once in a while. They drop down and hit us both on the way out. Oh. Yep. All right.